and welcome to Step Up Nigeria's podcast. Our podcast is an initiative built to create awareness of corruption issues that affect service delivery in Nigeria. Our initiatives also work to build a community of persons with integrity who will shun corruption and choose integrity and advocate for better service delivery for communities across Nigeria. My name is Onyi Ough, and I'm the host of this podcast. Welcome to this very special episode that we're having today. And if you don't have your notepad, I think this is one where you should have notes ready to pick up some good lessons. I'd like to introduce our guest, who is not a guest. The very first voice you would have heard on this podcast when we started in 2018. We have with us here our founder, Mrs. Onyi Ough, and that's Step Up Nigeria's founder, who is an international development expert with over 20 years of experience in international development. Welcome, Onyi.
Thank you, Femi.
How are you today?
Good.
Hope you're excited.
Yes.
All right. So we'll be learning on this episode lessons from 20 years in international development from an expert like our founder, Onyi Ough. So I'd like to start by asking you, most Nigerians are either medical doctors, accountants, lawyers, and now, of course, things are more diverse, but as at when you started your career journey, this would have been an outlier decision. So what inspired you to pursue a career in international development?
Thank you very much, Femi. It's a good question. I'll start by saying that I read history international studies for my undergrad. So I've always sort of wanted to work in an international organization like the UN, like everybody's, like I think most people in the international development would want to work, in the UN. So that was actually because I read during my course, because I was really quite passionate about my course. And then I followed quite closely, the crisis in the Middle East. So I was just always wanted to do something around diplomacy, conflict resolution. But in terms of the NGO space, I would say it was accidental. My auntie and mentor and the person that I would say, got me to, where I am, Lilian Ikanyawo, who used to be the former head of Tuga, was, I think, the person that I would say, I always look back and I'm like, without her, I don't think I would have been here. She knocked on my door one day. I had just finished my youth service. And she said, Onyi, would you want to come and intern in Abuja? I was living in Lagos then. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm just done. I was still looking for jobs. Some of my friends had gotten jobs in the oil companies and I was still, I was just 3 or 4 months after youth service. I was like, why not? Sure. What do they do there? I had no idea what NGOs really do. So, and that was how I, hopped, and came into Abuja and started working for Zero Corruption Coalition. And so that was my first experience. And then I think working in Zero Corruption Coalition, I realized, wow, particularly the first meeting, one of the meetings where I was invited, I think, to a session with the US ambassador to talk about elections in Nigeria. I was like, wow, this definitely gives you that sort of space to talk about how to shape things in Nigeria. And then I started getting passionate, about the work in the development space. So that was really my entry point.
Okay. All right. I'd like to ask, was it because your entry point was zero corruption? Why this particular space? Because there's a lot of NGO work to have been done, but of course your expertise is public service delivery, public value, anti-corruption, and around, other areas of that. Why was that your sort of niche when you started out?
Yeah, like I said, it was accidental that the NGO I was going to intern in was working on anti-corruption. So it was something that I liked it when I got in there. I remember my very first role was to manage an anti-corruption hotline for the Ministry of Finance, which was a project under Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's office at the time. So it was quite exciting as well, to be reporting straight to the minister's office and, receiving. And so it was just, for me, that was like the entry point. So I liked what I was doing. And then I started building my knowledge, in that space.
Okay. So what was a defining moment for you? What was that thing that shifted the way you saw your role in development work?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Thank you. I think for me, so I had a defining moment for me would have been probably after working in the space for, let's say, about maybe 8-9 years. So from Zero Corruption, I worked with a USAID project and then I left the country at some point for my master's and then came back. And then I was working on different donor projects. And one of the things that I did in some of those projects was to analyze the drivers of corruption or the drivers of poor governance in Nigeria. And I think after a while, I was like, you know what, I'm tired of all this analysis because, and you know, like we keep on analyzing. For example, in corruption, we say the social norms drive corruption. We say like the cultures, but what are we doing about it? Most of the donor projects were focused more on treating the symptoms, working with the anti-corruption agencies. So I started to think about an outlet. And I think in one of my consulting trips, I went to Zambia to assess their anti-corruption environment. And I think it was in Zambia, meeting with the anti-corruption agencies, that they had written books for children on anti-corruption. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good thing, it's maybe something that I could explore. I came back home and I discussed, Richard at the time saying, written this book, I think something I would like to do at some point. Because I thought about the idea, then I went to Zambia and I saw that they were doing it. And so it sort of motivated me. And I think that was when I decided, my first step would be to write books. It wasn't really to start an NGO. It was really to write books. And again, I was blogging as well. So I felt that was the outlet that I had to give my voice, because on that donor project, you're sort of restricted sometimes. So I started blogging, and the blog was Step Up Nigeria, actually. So I used to blog quite a lot then, where I share my views around anti-corruption. And then that defining moment is when I thought I needed to write books for children on anti-corruption. And that's where we are today.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So in your 20 years in development, you've worked across different sectors. Can you tell us some of those sectors and what sort of connects all of those sectors for you?
Yeah, so I've worked particularly around service delivery issues, and I really love that. So while I'm always talking about anti-corruption, but I actually am very passionate about improving public service delivery, building accountability mechanisms. And I worked with the cash transfer program, which I really, really did love, helping them establish hotlines and service standards, and, to ensure that those monies get to the people who need it most. And going to the field, I know I'm digressing a bit, but I just want to talk about that because something I was quite passionate about. Going to the communities was one of my most exciting parts of my work, where you go and see how these monies were transforming the lives of rural women. So I'm seeing how the work we're doing in Abuja, with the systems, was connecting to the people. So I think for me, what I would say connects all is in terms of building, first of all, having that pathways for change. I think for any project that you're doing, anything, whether it's service delivery, whether it's anti-corruption, whether it's climate, I think the key thing is to see what change you want to see. You need to really see, where am I going? What is that pathway? What do I want to see at the end? It's like when you're building a house, right? And at the end, you want to see this. You already have a picture of what the house should look like. So that's how I work. I can't do something if I can't see the line of sight. Yeah. And I think that's a key thing that connects all. Another thing is around building collective action. And you cannot, in this space, you cannot really do it alone. And you cannot, because something resides in a particular agency or within a particular group, doesn't mean they should take sole responsibility. So building collective action is critical to change. So those are the things I think that connects these various sectors that you can apply, from my experience.
Yeah, I'm going to digress a bit. Because you've worked in so many different sectors, I wanted to know, you also work with different stakeholders across anti-corruption agencies, service delivery, government. Do you have any interesting stories from that time and how you sort of manage working with diverse stakeholders?
Oh, yeah, I remember, I've learned, I would give a funny story. I won't call names, but I remember we used to work with my early start of my career. We used to work with parliamentarians. And as you know, I have a small stature. I'm very small. But I have a wonderful boss who used to push us to go out there. And knowing how the Nigerian culture is when it comes to women, young, then I was really young. It's not now that I'm old, but then that's when you could call me a young woman, right? And I was young, I was smallish. I was basically everything. So I remember I went for this meeting with the then chairperson of anti-corruption, honorable member, and I was sent, just me and my colleague. Both of us were small. I won't call the name of that ex-colleague. And then we sat down for the meeting, and the guy was nice, he's a nice guy, but I think he couldn't just help himself. He said, I don't mean to disrespect you, but maybe next time tell Lillian, maybe they should send. He didn't know how to put it, just kept on doing this. And I got the message saying like, we were too young. So I think it's just more like, but that was a good thing because I've worked, because of the fact that I was quite lucky early on in my career to be seconded to the Ministry of Finance, working with senior civil servants and that sort of thing. I think I learned to assert myself early on. So people used to call me small but mighty. So I remember once one director said, if not for your position where you're coming from, I would have walked you out of this room. So my point is, that helped me as well build my confidence, because you don't want to be taken like, oh, because you're small, you can't talk, or because you're, do you get what I mean? You still have a voice and you have something to say. So yes, I think it's just more like people sizing you up as a woman and looking young, most of the time, seeing you as a girl, and then you having to sort of show them that, yes, I'm young, but I also have, something to say. And I think that was, so all my career, I've always tried to, that's has been an interesting moment, just being able to sort of like, I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. And I think all of us at Step Up Nigeria can testify to that experience being the reason why we're such a young team. We're all young on the team, and we've all been given so much power, so much freedom to lead, to take charge. And I think we're thankful for that experience that has allowed you to put your faith and trust in us. So looking back, what's the most important lesson that you think you have learned on your journey, and why do you still carry that with you?
I think the most important lesson, I was reflecting on this even in other places where I do, I work as well, it's around the fact that, there's always people who talk about sustainability. And sometimes I always ask, what is really sustainability? Is anything really sustainable? But I think for me, one important lesson I've learned is that for me, what is sustainable is if a particular program or project has been able to transform the lives of people or transform the behaviors of people. Because when you are doing development projects, it's really the people that matter. Institutions matter. So when we build systems and we want to support, yes, they matter, but who is going to drive? Is it ghosts that is going to drive those institutions? You need people. I keep on saying that. So I think for me, sustainability is around, for a project, is how we've been able to transform people to make that change, to be able to run those institutions, to be able to build those systems. And I think that's one important lesson I've learned. So when designing programs, I always think through, that's why political economy analysis is very key when I'm trying to implement programs. So thinking through design of programs, because you want to know who are those stakeholders that can drive this forward. Who are those that oppose this particular initiative? How can we bring them on board? How can we change mindsets? And which is why, even linked to the work we're doing in Step Up Nigeria, is really all about the people. So for me, I think investing in people, transforming people is key to change. And then those people, once you can get them, then they will drive those institutions. I'm not saying that institutions don't matter or that we shouldn't, work on supporting institutions. I'm just saying what I've learned is transforming people is really critical to getting that sustainability we need to continue to keep up that work in those institutions or systems that we're trying to improve.
Yeah. And I think it's the importance of the one person. One person who converts two, who converts three, who converts four, and then we have that ripple effect. And I see that in our programming at Step Up in terms of investing in the integrity champions themselves. So move to a slightly personal question. Who are some of the people that have carried you along the way on this journey? These could be mentors, they could be friends, they could be colleagues. And what did they teach you?
I think I like the way you've said, like, friends, colleagues, different, because I think that different people have influenced me in different ways, even family as well. I will start again with Lillian. Ikanya was, I think, the first person, like, without her, I wouldn't, that knock on the door can change things, right? Just an internship, and really changed my life professionally, I would say. Because if not, I was applying to work in banks. So, because my parents were bankers. So I came from a family of bankers. So that was like the default, right? Both your parents worked most of their career in the bank. So but even at the time, like, why I'm really mentioning Lillian, because even at the point when I got into the development space, and I remember some aunties of mine were like, oh, don't want to work in NNPC are recruiting. I was like, I like my job. I said, but how much are they even paying you? I was like, I know, but there's something about just liking I just loved what I did. The pay wasn't great, but obviously, what it is like, the pay in this sector it's not really about the pay, but it's about the opportunities that you see, the fact that you're in the room trying to make changes for it. I mean, it's like, no matter how small, even if it's a community, it's still something. And I think that's what, when I'm dying, right? When it comes to the end of the world, you want to be, or the time God calls us, you want to be able to smile and say, at least you tried your best. And I think for me, that's what drives me. It's about the end of life. It's not necessarily, and what you've done. And I think that's why I love this space. I feel like we're quite opportune to be in a space that allows us to earn, but also to make a change, if you know what I mean. So Lillian was one of those ones, and I really, really thank Lillian Ikayo, because I can't thank her enough. And I think the different stages, and I think I will fast forward. So lots of people and so many people, I can't call everyone's names because once I can remember on top of my head, but I think another, of course, Richard really helped me as well, career-wise as well. Then I would mention, obviously, my parents, I think, have been a key driver. They just always think that I'm the best thing that can happen. So they're really very encouraging. I have very encouraging parents who are really so proud and keep pushing you. And then I would say when I came back because I left Nigeria to do my master's, got married, came back again, my second stint. Who influenced me? Jason. Jason, also another, key who really brought me into the consulting world. So I'll say Jason Olsen, superb, wonderful colleague, wonderful mentor as well. He is the one that sort of became, my godfather in PEA. So he brought me into doing political economy analysis. So I would say, yes, Jason was one of those people in my life that actually has had a very large impact professionally. And I would also mention, Delia, chair of TI, she brought me into the council, nominated me to be on the Transparency International Council and then on the board as well. So, and she, was just, that was also like, and she's still like one of my key supporters. She loved the work we're doing in Step Up. And she's really been encouraging to keep doing, because not many people are doing what we're trying to do in Step Up because it's quite hard. And so having those kind of people, in your corner. And then, I've had good line managers. So I can't talk about my work without talking about the line managers and who have become line managers / friends and, professional colleagues now. So I'll mention Maureen Idozu. She's wonderful. Give me the space to be able to do. In fact, I would say Maureen is like my maybe godmother when it comes to service delivery. So she sort of brought me into that service delivery space and allowed me space to do all I needed to do working with Servicom. So I'll thank Maureen. I would also thank Nelly. You don't know her. She used to be the head of one of the programs. She's doesn't live in the country, but Nelly was also great. And then more recently, I would just call out a few people who have also shipping me, because I'm still on a learning journey. So people who currently are also shipping me, I'll call out to Claire, Open Ownership, call out Louise in Open Ownership, Tom Townsend. So there are just lots of people. And then my dearest Farami here. I can't talk about my career without talking about Farami. You've actually been, I don't know what Step Up would have done without you, because I left the country and you've, taken reign. So I really appreciate you, Farami, for leading Step Up, after I had to step down and move on, with, step down from full-time operations. So you've actually been, like a strong force. And then I'll say the whole Step Up team. Like when I come back to Nigeria and I see you guys make my, it's like I feel happy. I've never come on any trip and feel like, do you get what I mean? When I see the Step Up team, I just feel very, coming here today, look at the events we're going to do today, the way everything is set up, the passion I see in Step Up team, it's, phenomenal. That makes me sleep well at night. So I say, even if I've done anything wrong, I'll say Step Up, when I see the team. So I think I'm grateful for, I haven't mentioned everyone, but I can't mention everyone, but these are the people who I think are shaping me, driving me, along the way.
Thank you very much, Fa. Thank you, and on behalf of myself and the entire team, thank you for thinking of us. As we wrap up, I wanted to ask, Step Up Nigeria. So in your journey in development, you're not just a development practitioner, but you're also a development founder, and as you've mentioned, you served on several boards as well. So with Step Up, what is your, as you see Step Up today, when you started your journey, did you ever see Step Up becoming what it is now?
No. Even when I was leaving the country in 2019, I was like, okay, let's see how far it goes. If it does 2 years, 3 years, at least I tried something. It didn't work. So I'm actually surprised that how many years now?
7 years.
7 years, we're still on. Like it wasn't, but I think for me, in Step Up, it was also like that story of Esther made me feel that it's something here. The very first story of change we had, and I was like, wow, from Halima's vote. When the girl stopped her teacher from selling her votes, I think that was that was the defining moment. I think I had ghost pimples, and I was like, okay, there could be something here. Maybe this is something worth pushing. And each year when we have the Anti-Corruption Star Awards, I'm like, we need to keep going. We need to keep looking for the funds, because I can't give up on this, because there's not who's going to take up, I'm not saying we can do everything, we can get other people, but we can help shape that, even if others are coming into the space to do what we're doing. So I think that's what keeps me going when I see the likes of Winner or Blessing or Naomi. I mean, it's and the feedback I also receive from people, I think makes me feel like, okay, let's just keep going till we can, keep trying our best, till, and see what happens. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My final question would be for young people who are watching or listening to this podcast now who would like to pursue a career in development. They're not sure why, is it worth it? What are the hurdles, challenges I might face? What advice would you give to such young people as they start their journey in development?
I would say they should be open-minded, because when I came into the space, like I didn't even understand what is zero corruption, what NGO, what is corruption. I don't even think I even knew, but I got into the space, the passion. When I tried to understand what the organization was trying to do. I tried to understand what the space was trying to do. So not just my organization. You have to be a bit humble. So I took a step back to learn and try to learn from people, look for who were the big brains in the sector, and try to learn, from them. But I think what drives me, and I think this is based on feedback that I always receive about me professionally, is the passion. I think so. For me personally, anything I do, I can't do any job without passion. So I can do anything. Once I've made up my mind, if I say, I'm going to do this, just know that you're going to get my 150%. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's even too much. I get too emotionally invested, even in things, even when it's not my own thing. So everywhere I have worked, you would think that it's my company, because I just put my 150%. So I would advise people that whatever you're doing, have that passion and just take everything like your own. Don't say, oh, I'm working for somebody. Oh, I just want to end a job. No, but just try and find that thing, within the space you're working on. Try and see what impact that organization or program is having, and try to see how you can get into that, see how you can feel that impact, So I would say be passionate, hard work, integrity, being humble and willing to learn, and just be open-minded and see where it takes. If it's not your thing, then you can pivot to another sector within the space, because it might not be, like corruption could not be someone might be maternal health, so just finding that. So it may take time. So you need to learn to try and sort of move around and see, and then you find that niche, and then but passion is key. But like I said, for me, it's different, because I can work anywhere. I can do maternal health, and you think that I'm that becomes my new favorite thing. So, because for me, when I made up my mind to do something, I put my whole passion and I put my strength. So it's passion, hard work, and integrity has worked for me. And I think, you want people to say, Onyi or Farami is my go-to person. So be that, and then that helps you, and just be willing to learn, really. I think is what I would advise people. Yeah.
Thank you. I think my last tip to put an icing on that is find a mentor. For someone who was mentored by Onyi for the last, 5, 6, 7 years, I would say, as someone who is growing in the development field, having worked with you one-on-one was such a useful time. And even since you've transitioned out of the country, just those check-ins, the calls, the feedback, the encouragement has been helpful on days where you're like, why am I here? What am I doing? Yeah. So I think find an Onyi in your life, and your development journey should be...
That is very kind for me.
So thank you very much for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you.
I hope our listeners have picked some important lessons from Onyi's 20 years in development. So congratulations again for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a huge monument. And And thank you for your service, of course, in all the areas that you have. We're hopeful that if you do this for another 20 years, the journey will be even better than it has been so far. So thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for following through on this podcast. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms at step_up_Nigeria on Twitter and Instagram, well, X and Instagram, and Step Up Nigeria on Facebook and LinkedIn. See you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.